Well, folks, it's as Eileen has pointed out, it's 6:01 on our computers, but 6 o'clock in the council chambers. So we'll split the difference and call the meeting to order. This is Tuesday, August the 9th, and we are in the council of 2002 in the council chambers of the city of Platteville. And with that, I call the meeting, our regularly scheduled meeting, to order. Who's our Nicola?
Yes. Candace is busy with the election tonight, so.
All right, so Nicola, we'll do roll call.
Well, thank you. Lynn Parrott,
I'm here.
Todd Casper,
Here.
Bob Doss,
Here.
Ken Killian,
Here.
and Eileen Nichols,
Here.
Kathy Kopp,
Here.
and Jason Otts.
Here.
Okay, the first item on our agenda tonight is a special presentation from UW Platteville about the 2022 Student Welcome Week. And I believe Lisa is here as well as Abigail. So ladies, if you would like to come to the podium and help us to understand what's going on.
Happy to. Thank you so much for a few moments of your time. My name is Lisa Kratz. I'm director of the Marquee Pioneer Student Center on campus. This is Abigail Genevico. She is our involvement coordinator for campus activities. And in our office, one of the things we do is try to pull together Welcome Week every fall for our new students. So this year, as we have our last day of the new student summer experience for our incoming students this coming Friday, we're starting to get very excited for our new students to move in with us on Saturday, September 3rd. And we have a lot of events planned for them. And typically what we do is come before this group and just kind of share the schedule, let you know what's happening, make sure to answer any questions you might have, and also make clear that if you are interested in joining us at any of the events, we would love to see you. So with that, I will let Abigail kind of hit the highlights. I think we have printed copies for you, and
yeah, I'm gonna just start passing these around. Feel free to take one. If you don't want one, that's completely okay. You can find all of this information on the UW Platteville website /welcome weekend. So this is just a paper copy, but the most up-to-date will be on the website. So as you'll be able to tell, a lot of things are happening on campus from September 3rd through September 5th. Our first day of classes is going to be on the Tuesday, September 6th. So leading up to that, we'll have lots of activities for our new students and returning students to engage in. So like Lisa said, we have new students moving on to campus on Saturday, September 3rd. We'll be doing a lot of different things on campus that day. One of them noteworthy is the welcome weekend kickoff and play fair. That's usually something we do on one of our turf fields on campus, and that is from 7 to 9 p.m. So it's a bit of a louder event. We have a facilitator that comes and helps get students acquainted with one another, build relationships. That's what the play fair portion is. We also started a new tradition where we have our class photo taken there. So it's a giant shape of a letter P that we gather all of the new class in. And so that's done that first night after they move in onto campus. The next day, Sunday, September 4th, we have some other events going on. Bridge Fest is a large event that we host on campus. Usually has about 1,000 students that attend this event. It's usually bringing together returning students, new students to learn about different ways to get involved on campus. We also have a Residence Life block party that does go into the evening, about 6 to 8 p.m. That's usually by our residence halls that are over on College Drive and Main Street area. So that will be an outdoor event, music, inflatables. So that will be that Sunday evening. Later into the evening, we are going to be shuttling students out to Millennium Cinema and Pioneer Lanes for a late night kind of adventure of just going to Cosmic Bowling and having a fun night out on the town. Monday, September 5th, One of those traditions that we have on our campus is Pizza Palooza and our outdoor movie. So that is 8:30 to 11 p.m. on Labor Day. We will be showing a movie out on our west lawn, right outside of the Marquee Pioneer Student Center. We are showing Jurassic World Dominion. So expect a little bit of sound that evening, late into the evening, probably around till 11 p.m. And then we have activities going into the first week of classes just to continue to welcome students and provide them with resources, connections, and just building a really fun environment that creates a sense of belonging for them to stay long-term in Platteville. Does anybody have any questions? That was just a few brief events that I think the masses would want to know about, but if you have any questions after looking at the schedule in your hands, feel free to shout them out.
Questions from anyone? No big concert this year.
We are not doing a concert. We are working on figuring out where concerts fit into our programming throughout the year. So at this point, no concert during welcome weekend. Unsure about the future date of concerts, but I'm sure you'll see us back here if we do have one.
Right, Lynn?
The block party is maintained within the campus area, right? Because you said
Yes.
something about Main Street.
Yep, it's just between that area of residence halls that it's still on campus. It's just near the area of College Drive and Main Street.
It's gonna be fun.
I hope so.
One of the things to highlight is we are partnering with the chamber. They will be doing a scavenger hunt that whole week, where the students will have information and they will be encouraged to go explore businesses in town and get, I don't know if they're doing a punch or get some kind of signature, and then there will be prizes for that as well. So we try to get them out into the community too.
Any other questions? Staff have any questions? Ken?
Okay, this is under Tuesday, September 6th. And I was wanting some clarification. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Environmental Science and Society. Is that, what, is that a new area?
So we have academic open houses. So each academic department on campus hosts open houses throughout the first day of classes. Some colleges have decided to have it all within one time period. Some have sporadically moved them throughout the day. So the Environmental Science and Society is one of the academic departments that's hosting an event. This sheet doesn't lay out the organization of it as well as the website does, just because there's so many dates and times in different areas, but those would be part of the LAE, College of LAE departments.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then thank you, Lisa and Abigail, and we look forward to having students back in town.
Yes, it should be a busy weekend.
Well, you have students already, or don't you? I mean, so your football and your volleyball and those students, have they already reported, or is that next Monday? Okay, let's move on then. In our agenda consideration of the consent calendar, the following items may be approved on a single motion and vote due to their routine nature. If you want something removed, let me know. Council minutes we have from July 26th, both the special and regular meeting. The payment of bills, financial reports for July. I have no appointments for boards and commissions. Licenses tonight, we have a temporary Class B to serve fermented malt beverages to the Jameson Museum Association backyard picnic area at the museum for Saturday, August 20. I believe that's the Pick and Gad Ball, Mine Day. And we have 1- and 2-year operator licenses to serve and sell alcohol as in your packet. And then the parade permit for Dairy Days, which is Saturday, September 10th, is the parade in the morning at 9:30. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion by Ken and a second by Eileen to approve the consent calendar as presented. We'll vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to start with Parrot. Parrot, thank you. Casper,
Yes.
Us,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes,
Nichols,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Arts.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Great. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, we have citizens' comments, observations, and petitions, if any. We have nobody in the audience who wants to make a comment, but perhaps I'll call on Ms. Kopp to talk to us about two events that were held this past weekend, both the fireworks and
the-
the groundbreaking at the airport.
Yes, the postponement of our 4th of July fireworks caused a little bit of upheaval. But we were able to pull it off on Friday, July 29th. I think it was extremely successful. I believe it was probably one of the largest crowds that we've ever had at Legion. Fireworks were spectacular. I think the people that came had a good time. I think the kids zone went well, and thank you to Adam. He was one of the volunteers helping to organize those activities and watching the kiddos over there. I guess the one thing that we're going to have a wrap-up meeting, but I definitely want to give a shout out to the park department, the police department, the fire department, and any of the city staff, Jody, for helping get the message out there. It was the first time in a very long time that we had to reschedule that. It's a big event. And it took everybody, but I think it went really well. So thank you to everybody. And then that was on Friday night. And then on Sunday, this past Sunday, we had the groundbreaking at the Platteville Airport for the brand new hangar that is going to be constructed. And we're going to be getting some signage up there. It'll be very visible from the highway. So I think that's a real good positive step for the community.
Excellent. I would also remind everybody that the grand opening for Sesquicentennial Hall, or as they fondly refer to it on campus, SQH. I think they get tangled up in that big word, who knows, but is on Thursday, September 1st. And my understanding is they're going to shut down Longhorn Drive that day. And probably it'll be in the road there at 1 o'clock. And I suppose after that, there'll be all kinds of tours and what have you. So the grand opening is that day. I assume the program is at 1. It really doesn't say the program is at
No,
1,
but
but
yeah.
I'm believing the program is at 1. So put that on your calendars. Anything else from anyone?
I know the only thing that the kind of Platteville Inclusive Partners are working on, so that's obviously the city, the Chamber of Commerce, is we are starting to put the finishing touches on our Taste of Platteville event that is occurring October 9th. So we are looking for not only any food vendors that would be interested, but also if there are nonprofit groups that would be interested in having a booth or just kind of being around to be able to kind of talk about what their specific nonprofit is. We're looking for individuals to contact either myself, the chamber director, Wayne Woodards, or the Main Street director, Tammy Hens. So we're going to keep kind of banging the drum on that. But seems like we have a decent amount of vendors. So now we're going to start over the next kind of month of September, really kind of promoting that out to hopefully get people to come to not only the Taste of Platteville, but then we're looking at doing kind of a pickleball tournament as well. So we'll keep you posted as we get everything official.
Are you playing pickleball?
I am not, because I'll be working the event, but
Just thought I would see if
I
I
know.
had taken up this fastest growing sport.
it's something.
All right, probably Bob is playing pickleball. that
That's
day.
right.
All right, moving on to reports. Boards, commissions, and committee minutes. Museum board, Eileen, anything?
We'll definitely plan on coming to the museum on Saturday, August 20th from, I think, 10:30 in the morning, or we're setting up at 10:30 and then it starts at noon. There will be music, some bluegrass music. There will be food. There will be children's activities. And there will also be a gem and mineral show, which is brand new. We've never had that before. So going to be a lot to do. So please come on out and support the museum and enjoy yourself.
That's Saturday, August 20th, correct? Okay. Police and Fire Commission, Kathy.
Nothing new to add.
Okay, there were other reports in our packet, the water and sewer financial report, the airport financial report, an update from the Task Force for Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity, and department progress reports. Anybody with any questions or any staff with any comments? Not? Let's move along to our action items. The first of which is Resolution 22-18, authorizing the issuance and sale of $2.72 million worth of water and sewer system revenue bonds, Series 2022B, and providing for the payment of the bonds and other details with respect to the bonds. So Nicola.
Yes,
Dave.
and Brian. So
Brian.
while Brian comes up to the podium here, Brian Wilmer is municipal advisor with Ellis. And as you may remember, a little while ago, we talked about these bonds. This is the water and sewer revenue bonds. You can see there in the staff note that the amount that we needed to fund was $2,518,190. And you can see the list of projects there that were a part of that borrow. And so the initial bond size for the bonds, including the estimated costs associated with issuing the bonds, was $2,720,000. And the bond sale date was today. And we have some exciting news. And I'm going to hand over to Brian to talk about that.
Thank you, Nicola. And I believe you all have our sale day report. Is that correct? If you don't, I do have extra copies. So with that, I'll go to the first page of the report, which identifies just some of the highlights of today's results, which were very positive. So Nicola kind of walked through the purpose already. We did want to identify that the rating remains stable at the AA-. That is the same as the general obligation rating. So you can issue debt on a general obligation basis as well as a revenue basis. And this is a credit based on your pledge of the revenues of the water and sewer system, and S&P had that rating remain the same at AA-. I'll go into that in a little more detail at the end of this presentation. We did have 6 bids. It's kind of important to talk about the number of bids, only because if you start to see the number of bids decline or have a low number of bids, all of a sudden you want to understand why that is. We haven't had that for the city for quite some time. There's a lot of interest in municipal debt in terms of the fixed income securities market, and the rates will show that as well. But 6 bids is good. 3 bids is kind of where you start to have a discussion about maybe did we not price this correctly, et cetera. So 6 bids is very good. The lowest bidder was Bankers Bank out of Madison. Their low bid came in at 3.46%, and the high bid came in at just over 3.7%. So the benefit of looking low to high is just an identification of some of the benefit that you could see in terms of selling competitively. And so that interest difference, if you were to run it over the full term of the debt, would be $86,000. So good results there in terms of seeing how different underwriters think and price things, and making sure that when we have something that a lot of bidders are going to bid on, it's good to run with it competitively. That said, there's kind of a summary there in terms of some numbers, getting to the total P&I of 3.7 million. You'll see on a later table that's actually quite a bit different than we originally projected. The interest costs came in quite differently, about $500,000 differently. And I'll quickly explain that. If you remember, when I came at the end of June, we were in an interest rate environment that was increasing about 25 basis points, and that is 0.25% per week. We didn't want to underestimate the rates, of course, and then have quite the surprise. we were worried about. There was a, a meeting of the Fed in between the pre-sale and the sale, and they did increase rates. That doesn't automatically mean that rates increase, but sometimes that can be an indication of where the treasuries are going. But that said, we were wanting to stick with that trend. But if you remember that I explained, we did have a week of kind of flat, no rate movement right before that sale day. That has kind of remained the same. There's been about a 5 basis point movement per week on average since this happened. So that said, our original pre-sale was at about 5% in terms of the true interest costs, and you're at the 3.46, or let's just call it 3.5. So with that said, the rates remain flat to basically where they were at the time, which is good news. You have to wait 30 days to sell bonds as a city in order to avoid a referendum. And so that's kind of why we have the set sale and then the sale day. So in a kind of scary interest rate environment like we're in, it's good to see that those cooled off, although the temperatures stayed just as hot. That said, some of the notes here as we move down this page is that with some term bonds, looking at using bond trust services for paying agent, the bonds maturing May 1st of 2032 would be callable as of May 1st, 2031. So anytime after May 1st, 2031, the city would be able to call this debt. So although we're kind of in a low interest rate environment, historically, you want that financial flexibility in terms of if you need to restructure the debt, not just looking for savings. So you still have that call date of May 1, 2031. And then one of the other reasons that the total P&I is lower is because we were able to downsize the issue about $55,000. And that was a result of the cost of issuance decreasing. A lot of the underwriters price this quite differently. They'll use premiums to offset their high discount, which their discount is basically what they collect to hold the bonds for a few days before they sell it. And so we see a lot of wonky structures, especially in today's environment. And so, like I said, at the pre-sale meeting, we did kind of go conservative in terms of those costs of issuance, particularly on the underwriter's discount. And you'll see that Bankers Bank came in quite low there, and I'll show that on the table later. And then in addition to that, bond counsel's fee was lower as well. More likely reason for that is you did sell later in 2021. So I'm guessing they felt that they had a quicker time to kind of review all the items that were done from last year. So that said, the final things on this page in terms of highlights would be a closing date is September 1st, 2022. So that's when you can expect monies to be received. We highly recommend somebody answers the phone that day. And the recommended official action is to adopt the resolution awarding the sale of 2.665 million water and sewer system revenue bonds. So if you will, whomever is willing to make the motion, just understand it's different than on your agenda because of that downsizing that happened today. The next page just kind of walks through our attachments. Beyond that, the first attachment is the bid tabulation in case you're curious as to the bidders that bid on it. And you can kind of see where, we order them by ranking in terms of lowest cost, with Bankers Bank being the first one. So I'm not going to go through those individually, but in case you're curious as to who bid on it. Again, these are kind of the typical bidders that you've seen at the city, both at the GO level and the revenue level. The next page is table 1. This is just an identification of the difference between the preliminary or pre-sale estimates versus the final. With some of the downsizing that happened, we're also able to downsize the debt service reserve requirement, and that's revenue bonds. You're required to hold 1 year's payment as a restricted fund within the utility. And that said, that was able to go down along with the cost of issuance, allowing for that $55,000 decrease. So you'll kind of see the difference that we've tagged on the right-hand side of this from pre-sale to final, of which I've kind of gone over in those highlights. On the next page, this is a breakout of the debt service between the water and sewer utility. And then as a total, on the bottom right of this table is where you can see the differences from the pre-sale estimates versus today's result. Again, that $500,000 in interest difference is kind of a result of the trend that was happening at that time, and then rates ultimately flattening out in terms of that trend of increasing rates. This will be important kind of moving into the future when we look at the financial management plan and identifying how we break out these payments between the water and sewer utility, because while it's a combined pledge, you don't want one utility subsidizing the other. So we structure these differently for the purpose of understanding where the current finances sit with both utilities, but with the understanding that we do want attractive maturities on a total basis, which I think proves out with the rates, and with the understanding that we want the ability to prove our debt service coverage that's attractive to Standard & Poor's, the rating agency. The next page segues into that discussion in terms of how are each utility doing in terms of covering that debt service based on the 2021 net revenues. So forgive us, this is kind of a smaller table, but it is important to understand if nothing else changes and we have the same rates and expenses kind of moving into the future, are we able to service our debt? And you would be able to do so on a standalone basis between the water utility, which is the first set of columns, moving to the right, the sewer utility, and then further the water and sewer utility together. And then the last set of columns, please understand, is the Standard & Poor's metric in terms of what they view as favorable to kind of keep that bond rating. So one of the things that they discussed with us over the call when they came with their results at keeping it at AA- is they like the strong coverage at 1.6. So we identified the debt service capacity at 1.5, basically saying, let's try to keep that as our minimum 1.5, but we can always shoot for that 1.6, because of course we're going to have new projects. We're going to look to identify different ways to pay for that. And we, again, if you remember from the pre-sale report and discussion, we talked about not applying cash to this specific financing, whereas the financial management plan identified using cash, but we're trying to hold on to that liquidity, make sure that we can pay for it if the interest rate environment continues to rise moving forward into future years. But again, so just wanted to make sure you still do have debt service capacity to where S&P would still see this as a favorable credit. And then on the last couple of pages is just the ratings report from S&P. This is a lengthy document, and I'm not going to go page by page, but it is an important to understand how S&P views the creditworthiness of the utility system, and again, combined water and sewer, and read through some of their rating actions and the specific criteria that they look through. The one thing that I'll highlight is on, what would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth page. If you go to the outlook section, they have a downside scenario and an upside scenario. And so the downside scenario is, of course, the thing we want to pay attention to the most. One of the comments from the rating analysts throughout this process about the debt service coverage being strong was that you typically do not see a utility that has the same rating as their general obligation debt. And that's due to the strong performance of the utility. And I think a lot of the planning that's been done, as well as the actions that's been taken to increase the rates, keep up with inflationary pressures on operating and maintenance expenses, as well as increased debt service due to new projects and replacing old pipes, et cetera. So what the downside scenario talks about is if that debt service coverage, that's what they mean by DSC, if that falls. So again, the importance of table 4, kind of trying to keep at 1.5 or higher. And then if you also use too much unrestricted cash. So again, this is kind of the balancing act that we play when we're looking at the planning and the financial management plan of saying, we want to apply cash, but there needs to be kind of a science to it. And a little bit of art to understand we want to make sure that S&P still views it as a creditworthy enterprise. Conversely, on the upside scenario, it does talk about the local area economy and to expand and diversify. This is in every credit rating report, of course, outside of a AAA rated entity. But that said, not near one of those, economic hubs like Madison or Milwaukee, they'll say, comparatively, you have a lower local area economy. So more or less, there are things we can do in terms of tax increment districts and other things to attract development. But that said, pay more attention to the things you can control immediately. And again, on that upside scenario, they did talk about the system's liquidity improving substantially. And so when we asked the question of the rating analyst, their response was, well, we go by median, and the medians for those are definitely thrown off because they're national medians, and there are utilities of large size, and we typically will say $13 million. That's quite a large jump over what the utility has now. So I would say for an upside scenario, given the comments that I talked about for the general obligation rating, and that we typically actually don't see that in the state, I think you should be proud of this rating. I think we should look to maintain this rating on the revenue side. There are certainly things we can do to make sure it doesn't go down, and focusing on that going into the future. So I just wanted to make those comments in terms of the utilities, because you can read the upside side of things and just say, okay, well, we'll just hoard that cash and just keep it and not use it for projects. I think you'd still be able to do so and not be penalized, where the important thing will be controlling that debt service coverage. And while we don't want to increase rates every year or increase rates by a lot, that cash can be used to lower your debt service. So just kind of wanted to say it's a balancing act that's not just on two axes there. So.
Okay, so does anybody have questions of Brian? So instead of 2.72 million, it will be 2.665, $2.665,000, equating to a savings over time with the interest of almost $600,000.
Correct.
I'd say that's good news.
Very, very good news. It's good that the market's flattened out.
Okay. Hey, anybody with questions? Then I would ask for a motion. And again, the amount is $2,665,000.
I move to adopt resolution 22-18, authorizing the issuance and sale of $2,665,000 of water and sewer system revenue bonds. Series 22B of the excuse me, of the city of Platteville, Grant County, Wisconsin, and providing for the payment of the bonds and other details with respect to the bonds.
And I heard Ken offer a second during that.
Thank you.
So Nicola will vote.
Parrot,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss.
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Otts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brandon.
Deed city-owned land, 275 Lily Street, 750 Valley Road. Before we can discuss this, this was tabled. So I would have to have a motion to bring it back off the table, I believe.
Made the
Who
motion?
made
Oh,
the motion?
I'll make a motion. Let me bring
I'm
it
sorry.
back. That's fine.
Okay. Todd made the motion, Eileen seconded. I didn't hear Todd, but I certainly heard the second.
Didn't hear me. I'm like,
All right.
I was thinking out loud.
We'll
Tell
vote. Nicola?
Parrot,
yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols, Cobb,
Yes.
Otts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Joe.
Yes, so this is a request from Lowinger Brothers Construction at 275 Lily Street. They've encroached onto land located between their property and the water plant at 750 Valley Road. It's where the railroad used to go through. There's some indication that the city may have some ownership into that land. It's not clear, but They've requested the city deed over our ownership rights into that property. It's 0.44 acres where they've actually, the encroachment has taken place. The reason this was tabled at the last meeting is there were some concerns raised by the Water and Sewer Commission about any stormwater impacts because this property would theoretically drain downhill to where the water treatment plant is and the well is located. So they were a little concerned about that. So the result is the recommendation that this be approved contingent upon an agreement with Lowinger Brothers that basically says any increase to the impervious area on that property must be approved by the city. There's a draft agreement in your packet. The attorney for Lowinger Brothers and the city attorney are still working on the formatting and details, but that will be the gist of it. It's that we would have to approve any increase in the impervious area of that 0.44 acres before they could do that. So that will be a document that will be recorded for future owners of that property as well. With that condition, staff does recommend approval. Any questions?
Okay, questions. The draft stipulation is included in your packet. And you say that it has not been finalized.
So that was a draft provided by the Lowinger Brothers attorney. So we sent it to our attorney.
Our
So there
attorney.
may be some modifications to that, but like I said, the important part is that it's that requirement that we approve any increase to the impervious area. And since Lowinger Brothers is planning to sell the property, we want to make sure it's recorded so future buyers would also be aware of it.
Do I hear any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve deeding the portion of the property at 750, excuse me, 750 Valley Road that is occupied by Lowinger Brothers Construction to Lowinger Brothers, Inc., subject to a stormwater runoff agreement
That is recorded.
that is recorded.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve transferring our whatever ownership we have. We'll vote, Nicola.
Parrot,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
yes,
Nichols, Cop,
Yes.
Arts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we have resolution 22-19, City of Platteville 2023 fee schedule. Candace isn't here, so who's pinch hitting?
I will pinch hit for Candace.
Okay.
So each year, the city staff review the fees charged by the city of Platteville for various permits, inspections, licenses, programming, etc. And this year we are doing it a little earlier than usual because we wanted to incorporate any changes in those revenue streams into the 2023 budget. So that's why this is coming before you now. You can see from the staff note that there are some changes and there's some page references for those changes in the administration department, building inspections, in the museum program fees, parks and recreation, planning and development, public works and cemetery. You did have a chance to look at these at the last meeting, and we have department directors here if anybody has any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any specific questions on any of the proposed fees for our 2023? These would be effective January 1, 2023. So our coming 2023 year.
I have a couple questions.
Okay, Ken,
Page 1.
that's administration.
New liquor license publication fee. It's crossed out $25, then it says $50.50. Is that supposed to be that way or?
Yes, sir. That is the change to that fee. And in the staff note, it does indicate from Candace that those adjustments are being made based on the fees that the city is charged by the Platteville Journal. And as the Wisconsin state statutes only allow the city to charge the applicant the cost of publication and not anything beyond that. So that is why one of those fees is increasing to cover costs. And also the other fee is decreasing because it was actually a little bit higher than the publication fee for that renewal.
Well, it just seemed odd. It was $50.50.
Yeah, and again, that would be the actual publishing cost, which is what we are allowed to charge.
Okay, then page 2. Let's see. The mobile home park license, $5 per space. And then it says notes, minimum $50. Explain what that means. You have to pay at least $50 regardless how many spaces you have.
I'm sorry, let me catch up to where you are. You're on page 2.
Right. And it's not in red. It's about 10 down.
Okay, so that's not a change. So I apologize. I am not, I'm not prepared for that question. So that we would have to get back to you on what that fee is related to.
Joe, do
Mobile
we have
home.
any mobile home parks? Yeah, we don't have a mobile home park in town.
Right.
If there were a mobile home park in town, it would be $5 per space. If there were only 2 mobile homes in the park, they would still have to pay $50 rather than only 10. Other questions?
I'm still looking for the rest. It was about it was on the it had to do with picking up brush. Where's that? It's something new.
On mine.
Which page is that, Howard?
Must be
I think
Public
it's-
Works.
I think it's page 15. Let me double check here.
Yeah, it would be on those who have a copy on their computer. It's page
Maybe
213.
it's this one. Here it is, page 15. And it says $25 per 30 minutes. Minimum 30 minutes and charge in 30-minute increments. So brush collection new. Does that mean any place that you pick up brush, any residence?
I would
If
certainly
something is
I would
picked
certainly
up-
like to start charging for that service, but that's something that the council may decide to withdraw. My concern here is, 90% of the people out there, they have a little handful of pile, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just the time involved in going around and finding those places. But then you get the 1% of the people who have, for example, we had one property who took down like half a dozen trees on 3 street frontages and lined up a pile 3 to 4 feet high along the entire 3 frontages of property, and expects the city to do that on the city taxpayer dime. What we can do is we can discuss that more during budget sessions or something like that, where we can withdraw that one from consideration right now, but I think we
question
need
is
to
about
start.
interpretation. Does this mean that picking up all this pile of stuff, you're gonna charge for 30 minutes of work there? If it say it takes 30 minutes, you're gonna charge them $25.
Yes,
And what if somebody has just a little few branches? Is that going to be also charged $25?
I think it should, but if you folks don't believe that, then that's,
I mean, it's a matter to me of how much you have for, takes 5 minutes. If it's 5 minutes, you're not gonna charge?
Howard is saying anytime any brush is picked up anywhere, whether it's 1 stick or 101 sticks, you're gonna have a minimum charge of $25. Is that, am I interpreting this correctly? Yes, I agree with Ken. It's a bit excessive. I mean, I understand a block worth or piles or tree removal, but when a storm comes along and you have 14 sticks in your yard and you lay them out, I mean,
So I always felt that one of the greatest things we had in the city was the access to the ability to get rid of our own refuse out at the dump site. And there's been times when the city has came and removed trees that I've cut down. And for $25, it would be a great deal, you know? And I've carried out a lot of my own stuff that I found too small. So I almost wonder if a person isn't willing to pay the $25, we have that access and we can do it ourselves. You know, so I mean, you know what I mean? I'm just.
But the thing is, we're going back to what we did years ago, and that is we go out to the stump site or dump site, whatever you call it. So some people are not gonna be able to do that. Rush to somebody else to carry out for you. Is that what you're saying?
I think ultimately the future is going to lie in us collecting some monies for some of these things we provide that are at and above what is normal. And the problem is how do we have Howard say what is a normal amount of sticks that the city won't charge for versus something that's obnoxious? And I think we all look at his example and say, you know, that person should have paid for the city to have that brush removed, because any private person would pay a private company to do the same. Yet we also see these small piles of sticks. $25 seems unreasonable. However, where do you draw the line and how do you measure it? That's the problem. But I do know one thing, and that is we shouldn't have the taxpayer taken advantage of by people that are removing their trees and just leaving them lay there for the city, you know, so. So I guess have a campfire,
I just
campfires
don't-
allowed.
I
mean-
I just don't agree with small piles that people are charged $25.
Yeah, and I think Ken, your point is a legitimate question. I think that's there's two things I think certainly that we're seeing as staff that are definitely issues we're going to have to address. One of them is, you know, chipping as far as in general with the brush site is becoming drastically more expensive. You know, we have budgeted about $20,000 a year. And I know Bob and I, you know, from the Park and Rec standpoint, that's a continual conversation we're having because that budget is being blown out of the water just because it's more expensive now to chip. So we're trying to, you know, do things differently there. Then I think to, you know, Todd's point as well is it's what is that line where, you know, it's again, we always want to provide a service, but also at the same point in time, we want to make sure that we're not, if individuals are abusing their service, there's a recourse for us as a staff, because otherwise it's hard to, you know, so again, this is it's a proposal. I think we can, if we want to table that one, these do not go into effect until 2023. So there is certainly time if there is additional research that you want us to do, or you want to have this as an additional topic, we certainly can bring that back. It's just something we're looking at to try to, you know, fairly capture in the budget or during the conversation of when we're seeing increases in chipping and we're seeing increases in collection,
so,
how do we address that?
so where's the chipping at?
So chipping is an expense that is.
No, it is the chipping done out at the site.
Correct.
It's done out on Southwest Road.
Yeah, on compost site.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Yes, at the compost
Yes.
site. It's referred to as grinding in the,
Right.
in the budget.
Okay. And
it
so
is-
there's a secondary problem there. because there's access by anyone who wants it. So we're not only grinding and taking care of the city of Platteville
Yes.
waste, but we are taking care of surrounding non-city residents.
Yes, so that's
'Cause I've
something.
seen them drive through.
Right, so that's something we're looking to address in the capital improvement plan, is the consideration of how do we put in some type of the request is going to be for a fence. And then the thought process goes to, as residents, is it a code that everybody gets? Is it, we're trying to decrease that cost, because yes, we definitely are seeing an increase where we're having to even this year look at staying within that $20,000 budget, and it's not going to chip everything, which causes issues for snow plowing, because that's also where we store snow. So there's a lot of cyclical, factors that are causing that impact. So
I have seen in other communities where they have somebody sitting out there. It's only so many hours, 1 or 2 days a week, which is really unfortunate because it really limits access.
Right.
But I also see we have commercial tree removal services dumping massive logs out there, and a lot of refuse that then we're paying as a city taxpayer to grind up. And I don't know where it's all coming from. I imagine probably not all from the city of Platteville. So there's got to be definitely something done there. That's a lot. It's a big pile out there right now. It's the size almost of this building. I think it's huge. Anyway,
Is there any rule that says that I can accumulate my brush on my property and give it to you once a year?
I don't know of any rule like that.
I don't need to put it at the curb. I'll just accumulate it and leave it there for a long time so I get my money's worth.
I suppose you could.
it's an option.
I suppose you could.
pretty good wildlife habitat.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might have a few extra animals
Yeah.
around and about.
Yeah.
Kathy?
I guess I would like to suggest that we table that.
This
piece of
line,
that,
Yeah.
brush collection.
just that budget line, and have a.
So
little
you're moving to table the brush collection.
Correct. I
Entry.
agree that it's a problem.
Right.
We need to identify it, but without the correct language.
So we have a move to table brush collection
I second it.
and a second.
Yeah.
So motions to table are non-negotiable.
I'm just wondering if it might work better to just approve the fee schedule with that item removed for discussion later, rather than tabling. It's not really a motion or an action that can be tabled, I'm thinking.
Well, by tabling.
Yep, you can do it that
Right,
way.
you can do that, but the one thing we don't want to do is lose the discussion.
No,
Right.
I mean, because I don't
Right.
think, I think that there's been enough discussion here that we see this as a problem, maybe a threefold problem or fourfold problem. And this one line item doesn't really address it. So do you want to remove your second?
See, my feeling is that if we table it, then we can at least talk to people and see what people feel, because we are talking for people, right? So this is something that we may not agree on, but what do the people want? And if they are okay with the fee, so I don't know. I want to keep.
Can we remove it from the fee schedule and approve the fee schedule without it, and then have it on a future agenda as an item for discussion?
Well, I think the only thing, Nicola, that we're removing right now is this one line.
Right.
That would, tabling that, I don't see why you can't. So, and then we'll discuss it at a future time and bring it back off the table in terms of adding it to the fee schedule. So let's vote on the motion to table the brush collection line item, charge and minimum charge. We'll vote, Nicola.
So we have a motion and a second?
Yep, we have a motion to table by Kathy and a second by Lynn.
Barrett,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
Yeah,
Nichols, Cobb,
Yes.
Arts.
Yes.
Okay, other questions that people might have?
I have one on page 16 with the downtown reserve parking.
Mhm.
The,
Six.
maybe doesn't seem
Oh,
like a
yep.
lot, but it is an increase, and I guess I'd like to know the reasoning behind increasing the parking, the reserve parking.
I can speculate what that reason is. We use the monies from the reserved parking as maintenance monies for the downtown parking lots. So I'm speculating that increases in the cost of blacktop and concrete or cement, whichever it's supposed to be, I always get that wrong. Those kinds of things are the reason for an increase.
Nailed it.
I just had a quote for seal coating a driveway, went up 30% in
Mhm.
3 years. So I'm just thinking that this $5 increase for a 30 for a month probably has something to do with that. Any other questions? Otherwise, I would take a motion to adopt the fee schedule as I would say as revised and with the tabling of the brush collection line.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion by Jason and a second by Ken to approve this fee schedule, tabling the brush collection and bringing that back later. We will vote.
Parrot,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
yes.
Nichols, Cop,
Yes.
Arts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we have award the audio visual RFP.
Yes, so I apologize that this did not. Walk us all through. Okay, so within the 2022 City of Platteville approved budget is the renovation of technology upgrades to the council chambers, the second floor conference room, and the human resource office. The City of Platteville has the desire to host and stream virtual and in-person council meetings, as well as host and stream in-person and virtual training and presentations with our citizens and vendors. The purpose of this request for proposal was to invite prospective vendors to submit a proposal to supply audio, visual, virtual, and streaming solutions to the City of Platteville. So the RFP again was made available for distribution on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, and was added to the City of Platteville website, League of Wisconsin Municipalities website, and was issued twice within the Platteville Journal. The deadline for submissions was Thursday, June 24th, 2022. The City of Platteville received submissions from the following firms. It was Swaggett Productions LLC out of Dallas, Texas, AVI SPL out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Advanced Systems Integration LLC out of Burnsville, Minnesota, and Integral Building Systems out of Madison, Wisconsin. With the submissions for the various firms was an overall cost breakdown to complete the project. So below is what each firm submitted as a project total. So as you can see for the council chambers, Integral Building Systems submitted a proposal of $43,150.38. Advanced Systems Integrations submitted a proposal of $41,517.70. Swaggett did not really have a breakdown per individual room that we asked for, and I'll kind of get into that in a little bit further. And then AVI SPL had $122,133.26. Then moving to the North Conference Room, Integral Building Systems had a proposal of $6,424.28. Advanced Systems Integration had $2,468.11. And then AVI SPL had $9,161.84. The HR office then had Integral Building Systems at $7,573.47. Advanced systems integration was $2,792.66. Swigert again did not have anything specifically per room, and then AVI SPL had $12,917.34. Advanced systems integration was the only firm that actually broke out specifically labor costs, so I included that in there. And then you can see obviously the grand totals for all four of the firms, with Integral Building Systems being the lowest bid at $57,148 and 13 cents. And then the other two, and then AVI SPL obviously coming in at the highest. So $100,000 was approved by the Common Council to be utilized for ARPA funding for the audiovisual upgrades. So when reviewing the proposal from Swaggett, it was the opinion of staff the proposal did not seem to be tailored to the city of Platteville. Their proposal was more of a generalized option in which they provided cameras which would focus mainly on the council chambers and not account for the other rooms requested in the RFP. Due to this recommendation from staff was to rule out Swigert in further discussions. Also in reviewing AVI SPL's proposal, it came in well over budget, and although the proposal was very thorough, staff wanted to review the two proposals which appeared to be similar in cost, equipment, and end result. This left staff with reviewing the proposals for Integral Building Systems and Advanced Systems Integration in more detail. So on Monday, July 25th, Communication Specialist Richards and I met with member of UW-Platteville's Information Technology Service Department to review the various submissions. Advanced Systems Integration provided the council chamber AV upgrades, which would include an all-new video presentation and camera system. 2 new cameras would be installed to capture the council and audience. The presentation displays included a new 98-inch display mounted at the old projection screen location, an 82-inch display behind the council seating area for the audience viewing, and then a ceiling mounted 55-inch display in the audience area for council viewing. This same content will show, the same content would be able to be displayed on all 3 screens, and then the existing council mic system would remain and be integrated into the new technology. Advanced Systems Integration does have an optional care maintenance package, which is for a yearly cost of $6,150. So then Integral Building Systems provided the council chamber will have an installation of 3 PTZ, they call them pan tilt zoom cameras, located on the walls closest to the ceiling, facing the following areas: the council seats, the staff seats, and then the lectern. So selection and controls of all the cameras would be via a 10-inch tabletop touch screen that Communication Specialist Richards would be able to use, or anybody else. The existing microphones would be calibrated and connected to the new system. Each council member's desk would then have a 22-inch monitor that will show the same content as the large main display. There would be installation of a 98-inch LED display that would be located on the same wall as the recessed projection screen and project. And then they would remove all of the old kind of technology. So Integrated Building Systems provided a 1-year comprehensive warranty, and then there is the ability to sign up for an annual inspection of $150, and then software and firmware updates for a total of $165 as well. So in reviewing the information with the Communication Specialist Richards and UW-Platteville's ITS, Integral Building Systems recommendation was the recommendation for council members to have an individual screen to view presentations was a better option than a screen further out in the chambers. Also, the price points allow staff the flexibility to work with Integral Building Systems on additional upgrades and contingency planning if needed. Therefore, city staff would recommend the awarding the audiovisual RFP to Integral Building Systems in the amount not to exceed $100,000. Fire away with questions.
So I have a question on your chart.
Yes.
Where it says labor costs.
Yes.
Does NA mean not available or not applicable?
Not available. So they did not have anything specifically in their proposal that broke out labor separately.
So when this 43 from Integral Building Systems, we can assume there is no additional labor costs,
Correct.
and we would verify that
Correct.
because it makes a big.
It makes a big difference.
22,000
Yeah.
by one of them, and that's the only one.
That specifically broke out labor costs, which I thought was interesting. But yes, that would be something we would obviously follow up with Integral Building Systems to do and verify that is the case.
Okay, so it says what the 43,150.38 is just for the council chambers.
Correct.
And that includes 7 22-inch monitors.
So that would be each individual.
Not for you, because you're all
No.
gonna be looking over there.
Correct. So each council member would get a monitor. They would basically take where the current projector is. They would put a 98-inch LED screen on there. And then there would also be kind of a system then that either the communication specialist or any kind of commission that was running it has the ability then to utilize the camera system. The cameras then would be, there'd be one that would be pointing on the council chambers, there would be one that would be pointing on staff, and then there would be one that would be pointed on anybody who would be at the lectern, and that basically can all be controlled via this 10-inch screen. The microphones then, they would utilize the same existing microphones that we have, just update that system to try to get some of the issues that we've had with crackling and different things there. And then they would then look at potentially the ability to have the Northwest Conference Room and also the Human Resource Office have similar abilities to where if in the event we would ever have an overflow that we would need to have people in other rooms, potentially there'd be the ability to have some type of a connection then that they would all be able to see what is going on.
So everybody on council at least knows where the North Conference Room is. Where is the HR office that they're referencing?
So currently that is below. If you go downstairs, you have Jody's office is temporarily being right now on the, I guess if you're staring at the stairs, we're talking the left side. So there's two offices there. The back office right now is currently HR.
Oh, the old water.
So the old finance and water and sewer. So our intention would be to look at putting that technology in there as well as in our CIP over the next 2 years or so, looking at actually finalizing those offices to make them a little bit prettier for the public.
Okay, other questions?
So the monitors that we'll have here, will we be able to like bring up our agendas and all that? And okay.
That's a possibility we're going to look into. For sure, it will be whatever is being shown on the projector. So we can obviously verify that, but I think the intention was that primarily it will be whatever is being shown on the projector. So we could obviously have the agendas up for you as a possibility, or we can ask them how that kind of plugs in or plays into it.
Okay.
We're reviewing this. What will we see instead of looking sideways at that thing right there?
So, yeah.
What can we see?
So what you will see is if anybody is doing a presentation, so let's say they have a PowerPoint presentation, they have a video, or they have something that would be on that screen. Instead of you having to look there, it will be right in front of you.
Well, I didn't have much time to spend on this one, but it just seemed like Advanced Systems was more complete. That was you're saying that.
I think the concern
Gonna give us as much or more?
The number one concern I think that came up when we talked with ITS about Advanced Systems was the fact that as council members, you would get a 55-inch monitor and that would be what you would be seeing in front of there. We had concerns with the fact that that's going to be, if you're looking at a PowerPoint presentation, or even if you're looking at a spreadsheet, that's not ideal. So that was when we talked with Information Technology Services. The two firms were very similar, but we felt a little bit that with Integral Building Systems, their proposal was a bit more user-friendly for viewing. And that it also allowed us the flexibility because of the cost. We could look into additional upgrades that potentially could be done and kind of work through that.
Otherwise, there would be a 55-inch screen hanging here. And for the life of me, I can't even imagine what it would be like to have 82 inch.
Right. There would be.
Looking back there thinking, where in the world?
Yeah, that was kind of I mean, it would be nice, but with all of the way that kind of the pipes are structured and the windows, it was a concern.
Plus, the 20-inch screen on your desk.
Right.
Would be nice.
Would be nice.
Adam and I actually went round and round trying to figure out what would be best for you guys. And that's obviously why we wanted to talk about it. But I do struggle a little bit with the 22-inch screens for two reasons. One, as Jason just called out, you probably would need to have your laptop and the screen.
Right.
And then with that tall of a screen, seeing you. So I think we're struggling a little bit, but your input is definitely needed at this point.
So do they have to be 22 inch?
They don't. So that's something where
What are our computers?
they're probably.
These are probably like 13.
Yeah. So I think we liked that's what kind of Jody and I went back and forth on. So I think we could certainly work with Integral in looking at, okay, if it can't be, we have concerns about that. So we'd like to see, can you bring us something? Have you guys maybe as a council look at that? And if not, I'm sure there's a way they can alter the technology so that Either it's we get you new laptops that make more sense, or I think my biggest thing is I'd like you to have the ability, whatever is at that desk, that it automatically connects to what is being shown. So if there's a way we can do that differently, I think that's a much better option than trying to have another site view where it's, okay, the majority of everybody who's either as a council member or in the audience can see that big screen. And then for you guys, you'd have something specifically at your desk.
What about staff? Can they read what's going to be on the screen as far as distance and size of print?
I would say most of us have laptops, and so we can usually see the presentations that way.
You're going to have the same capability as far as looking at something in front of you or not?
Generally speaking, when somebody comes and presents to the city, they are presenting a PowerPoint that they've already distributed to staff, so we can pull it up on our laptops while they're presenting it on the bigger screen or on your little screens, however that's going to work.
Do you see it beforehand before we do?
Sometimes that way we can prep for any questions you might have.
Yeah, that gives you an up on what we're able to ask.
Yes.
We like to be prepared.
I think that's a good thing. Just a little bit more about the North Conference Room in the HR office.
Yes.
Would there be cameras in those rooms?
So that's something we'd look at eventually. What they talked about was specifically there would be call it a soundboard, or there'd be a board underneath the actual TV that essentially would have a camera on it so that you could do a Zoom meeting. So specifically, if it was a smaller group that wanted to conduct a Zoom meeting, you could do it directly from that room.
Because I see no point in just putting monitors in
Correct.
those two rooms.
Yeah.
Frankly, I see that's kind of a pointless.
No, so it'd be, yeah, there'd actually be called a video bar or whatever that would be underneath the LED screen, and that would have the capabilities then to actually project a Zoom meeting, a camera, so you could see who's in the room.
Okay. Other questions, Kathy? Jason?
Just one other one, the annual inspection fee and the software firmware updates, is that something that ITS can do for us? Or is that something that we need to have this company do as well?
Yeah, so we'll look at that with whatever company, the council would choose. We'll look into that and see if that's something we have to annually put into the budget, or as like we said, if that's an ITS service that can be provided, we'll dig into that a little further.
Eileen? No question. Ken, any more questions?
Not at this time.
Lynn?
I'm just wondering if the desks the configuration of the desks will change. Like, cause I'm wondering, not so much configuration, but the desk would change if you put the monitor on there. I mean, I would love it, but I'm just wondering if you could have it where, so that the monitors, so we won't be lost in it, so that the monitors are just like this, but that's a design thing.
Yep,
So
we can.
Yeah, that was just my question.
And I think that's the concern that Jody and I talked about as well, is, from a video standpoint, we don't want you,
Well, and they don't make a Sears catalog anymore.
That's right, so-
They sit on those.
this is true.
All right, Todd?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I just have one question.
Yeah.
One more question. So the grand total that is here is like around $60,000. So why are we approving up to 100 grand?
So that's what was in the budget. So obviously we would like a little bit of flexibility, but that doesn't mean we're going to go nuts. I mean, essentially, we're going to come back to you with anything that is over that to talk about that. We
Over
don't.
60.
Correct.
All right. I just thought I had to ask
Fair
that
enough.
question.
Good question.
Okay. If there are no questions, is there anybody? I understand that this is your first reading of this revision.
Yes.
So if you're comfortable, then I believe we could move on to action on this.
Yep.
If you're not, then you need to speak up.
I move to award the audiovisual RFP to Integral Building Systems and authorize the city manager to enter into an official agreement with Building Systems in the amount not to exceed $100,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kathy and a second by Lynn. Nicola will vote.
Barrett,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
yes.
Nichols, Cop,
Yes.
Otts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, that completes the action portion of our agenda. We'll move on to information and discussion. We have only one item here, the financial advisor RFP. Adam.
Yeah, so obviously, as part of the 2022 City of Platteville City Goals, we have the desire to conduct a request for proposals for a variety of our contracted services. So the next one on the list is obviously our municipal advisor or financial advisor. So the City of Platteville currently contracts with Ellers Public Finance Advisors for the duties of the city's municipal financial advisor. The financial advisor will assist the city in the analysis, structure, issuance, and management of debt. The financial advisor will also be called upon to provide other financial advisory services, such as the creation of an updated financing plan, bond rating assistance, etc. So the RFP was made available for distribution on Thursday, July 14th, 2022, and was added to the City of Platteville website, League of Wisconsin Municipalities website, and issued twice within the Platteville Journal. The deadline for submissions was Friday, July 22nd, 2022. The City of Platteville received submissions from the following firms. We had Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors LLC, Ellers Public Finance Advisors, and Robert W. Baird Incorporated Advisors. To review the three firms and provide a formal recommendation to the Common Council, a subcommittee has been formed consisting of the city manager, administration director, and alderpersons Killian and Nichols. The first round of interviews were conducted on Monday, August 8th and Tuesday, August 9th today with the three firms. It's anticipated the subcommittee will narrow the firms down to two, and then each of these firms will then be given an opportunity to present to the Common Council at a future meeting. As far as the budget fiscal impacts, further information will be provided regarding the budgetary and fiscal impacts once the finalist firms have been identified by the subcommittee. So our plan right now is the subcommittee is going to be meeting again next week, Thursday, to kind of narrow it down to two. And then at the August 23rd meeting, there really won't be any action, but essentially we will bring the recommendations to the council to let you know who the two finalist firms are. And then if there isn't any questions, what I'll then do is work with those two firms to set up a date, more than likely in September, to have them come and actually speak in front of the council. And then what will happen is after that conversation, the subcommittee will meet again, kind of talk about the interviews that occurred within the council, and then kind of come with a formal recommendation, which then will be brought back to the council for you to consider and then award. And then essentially what will happen is this contract then would start January 1st of 2023. So whichever firm is selected, whether it's the current firm that we have, or if the determination is made to go in a different direction, that would not start until January 1st of next year. So.
And the submissions, the RFPs are available in
Yes.
your office if anybody would, other than Ken or
Correct.
Eileen, would like to
Yep.
look or read or see them. All right. That's the information and discussion items. We now have a closed session scheduled per Wisconsin statute 1985, parent 1, parent E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This is about the Platteville Armory. So I would take a motion to go to closed session for that.
And then do you want to have it
And-
turn because there will
oh,
be no
and-
action?
And return with no action. We'll just adjourn from the closed session without action.
I would make that motion, the closed session per Wisconsin statute 1985 on. And to return to open session with no action and then adjournment.
Second.
Nicola will vote.
Barrett,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols, Cop,
Yes.
Otts.
Yes.
Motion carries.